John Scott here with Four Eyes, Jonathan Acosta.
Wait, are we rolling or? Okay. I mean, that's what happens. Little injury to the eyeballs, taking off some contact lenses that didn't want to cooperate. So, we're here with the glasses. I just wanted to be so locked in for OTAs. I just want to make sure the vision was exquisite. So we're going with the glasses today. It's a new look.
I was actually going to let this just be an outtake, but you rolled with it so well. We're just going to keep on rolling here.
We're keeping it here,
So day one of Bills OTAs, attendance is the number one thing that we do once we get out onto the field. We knew ahead of time the only person on this Bills roster, as Sean McDermott said it, not here and accounted for, was James Cook, and frankly, it's no surprise.
No, I mean, we all know the contract situation that is going on with James Cook on social media. He's been asking for the $15 million a year. Brandon Beane, I think shortly before the draft, said that all of our contract extensions are sort of done, and we don't expect to sort of reevaluate that until after the following season. So James Cook not here. Sean McDermott spoke about it, saying that, listen, I've been in contact with him the way you would expect a coach and a player to do so, and James will be here when he's ready to be here. That's not necessarily indicative of Cook being here anytime soon. Mandatory minicamp is coming up in a couple of weeks, so important to emphasize that this is still a voluntary portion of OTAs. So while, yes, maybe the rest of the team being here is a good sign for the rest of the team, but James not being here, maybe a little bit of concern. Deion Dawkins made sure to emphasize that it was voluntary, saying, listen, if it was up to everyone else, we'd be playing football 365 days a year. That's not the case. So everyone that's here, we love it. Everyone who's not here, we still love them. And everything will be fine once they're all together. We just have to wait to see if that actually does come together when mandatory minicamp starts.
Yeah, once it's mandatory is when he can start getting fined. So as much as this man is looking for a new contract to make a lot more money, I'm sure he's going to be pretty protective of it. And I expect Cook to be here in the middle of June for mandatory minicamp. A guy that is here, even though he's got a pretty dang big event coming up this weekend, is Josh Allen, set to get married this weekend, but he is here. And Sean McDermott really hammering home the importance of the reigning MVP being present, even with probably the biggest day of his life coming up.
Oh, I mean, yeah. This team takes its cues from Sean McDermott and from Josh Allen. So if Josh Allen, the leader of this team, the face of the franchise, as Sean McDermott calls him, if he's out here in such a big portion of his life, here for voluntary OTAs, I think that sends a message to the rest of the team. Deion Dawkins called him the MVP on and off the field, right? So him being here sets the tone, sets the message for the rest of the team, saying, I'm here because this is important to what we're looking to build. These weeks, Sean McDermott talked about how you don't have time for all of the team building to happen once August and September hits. It's important to be out here and the guys can go play golf, go bowling, go have lunch or dinner together. And so when you have the leader of the team here as part of those team building exercises, I think that funnels its way to the rest of the team.
And it should be noted, there's only 2 weeks this year the Bills are doing OTAs, and mandatory minicamp is a week earlier than it normally is. Just the way the NFL schedule kind of shaking out. Sean McDermott emphasizing they didn't want to go an extra week of OTAs and then pushing minicamp, because that would actually go into that break between minicamp and training camp. And from a health science perspective, him and the staff believing it was more beneficial to give them a break before training camp than actually be here an extra week for practicing. One thing, and I spoke with a couple wide receivers, Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, new guys who are working their way with Josh Allen, they're emphasizing the importance of these reps, albeit limited, of getting up to speed with a position group that everybody eats, so everybody needs to be in line.
And not just those guys too, but think about it like a guy like Keon Coleman coming only into his second year. The comments made during the offseason about the team frankly being disappointed in the way he finished the year coming off that injury. Sean McDermott had plenty of praise for Keon Coleman, saying he liked the way he showed up after a little bit of a break, looked like he'd been hitting the weight room, and he used the word proud of the work that he's put into this point in the offseason. So these reps are not just important for a guy like Elijah Moore or Josh Palmer who are getting their first reps with Josh Allen, but Keon Coleman now coming into his second year where he's expected to do a lot more than he did his rookie season.
A lot of rotation, so as Sean McDermott said, we don't really have a depth chart. They're working a bunch of combinations. Keon Coleman made a nice physical play for a touchdown pass in kind of goal-to-go situations here. It's not pads. There's not a lot of contact, but still encouraging to see that from him. I will also say Dalton Kincaid with the play of the day. One-handed, just plucking it out of the air right at the goal line for a touchdown. Another guy who has been a high topic of conversation who Sean McDermott addressed that element, kind of lumping him and Keon Coleman ahead of practice today.
I think the bigger comment that I took away related to Kincaid was actually with Dawkins at the podium afterwards. He said, he used the term, he has a little bit more pep in his step, which I thought was interesting because Kincaid isn't necessarily the biggest energy guy out there. He's certainly not a Deion Dawkins in that sense. So I think for Deion to sort of notice that and use that phrase when talking about Dalton Kincaid, he also said he sees him maybe just a little bit more comfortable and that he's getting older and maturing a little bit. And it makes sense. Oftentimes, the guys in these offensive skill roles, it takes them a little bit of a time to make an impact. They're not going to come and be rookies and light the world on fire. Kincaid's going into year 3, so he's expected to start producing like a first-round pick. So to hear that, him coming off an injury also, you saw the sleeve on his leg. But I think as he goes throughout the offseason, we'll see how much of that pep in that step translates to actual production and the chemistry he has with Josh Allen.
Let's go to the defensive side of things, and I had you particularly focusing in on the cornerback position because I think from now all the way through training camp, it's really going to be the main focal point in conversation because it's one of the maybe only true position battles open at the second cornerback spot. Max Hairston now going up against veterans as well. You have Tre'Davious White back out there. You spoke with Dane Jackson afterwards. We kind of saw everyone sprinkled in here all up and down the quote-unquote depth chart with first, second, third team here. What did you see even from drill work between Hairston and Tre'Davious White?
My sense from watching it is that you could tell who the veteran was and you could tell who the rookie was. I think Trey White came in and looked like someone almost like back on the bicycle again, you know, like he never left, very familiar, very comfortable in this sort of setting. Whereas for Hairston, some reps that weren't necessarily the cleanest, going back and adjusted, getting extra coaching and stuff. Nothing that's concerning. He's a rookie, you know. This is his first time going through this portion of OTAs, and when he goes through minicamp and training camp, that'll be his first time going through that. But I think you could definitely see a difference in the comfort and the smoothness between what Trey White was doing and between what Max Hairston was doing. And then I talked with Dane Jackson after practice, and so I asked him, what sort of value can you guys being here provide for a guy like Max Hairston, not just him, but other rookie defensive backs like Dorian Strong and Jordan Hancock? And he said, listen, I think they're already great on their own. They're here for a reason. But yes, us being Trey and Dane, having guys with years of experience in this system with this team, it can only be a benefit to young guys like that. So it'll be something to continue to monitor. But in terms of someone maybe hoping for Hairston to have shown something right away today that would lend you to believe that he's going to be the week 1 starter, I think maybe it's more of an uphill battle in that sense than maybe some people are expecting.
Yeah, we're going to see all sorts of things between now and the middle of August and the end of August when these decisions are ultimately made. Hairston will get his chance. It's just not right now. I think Tre'Davious White, you know what you're getting sort of with him in terms of his comfortability and knowledge of the Bills' defensive system. Let's go to the defensive line. Joey Bosa, when he was signed, the number 1 wild card with him is health. And he's already dealing with a calf injury that Sean McDermott says is likely going to keep him out the rest of OTAs, minicamp, but the expectation is that he will be back and ready to go with training camp. This is not a good start for their most high-profile addition to the defensive front.
No, so that's the negative look at it. And then the positive one is, well, this provides a huge opportunity, for example, for a guy like Landon Jackson, a guy that the team has raved about since they drafted him in the 3rd round. He has all the measurables out of a guy you think of that would have a high ceiling. So this is an opportunity. This is the way the offseason plays out sometimes. Guys get injured. Guys are able to take advantage of the opportunity. Think about training camp last year where Cole Bishop, 2nd-round pick, expected to do a lot. He gets injured in training camp. DeMar Hamlin really takes a strong hold of that other starting safety spot and really never lets go of it. Is this an opportunity with Bosa's injury? Obviously, you expect him once he comes back healthy that he's going to sort of reclaim the role that you thought he would. But this portion right here, right now in May and going into June, an opportunity for someone maybe we weren't expecting, maybe a rookie like Landon Jackson, to really step up and show the coaches why maybe they deserve more playing time than expected.
And they have a lot of bodies. We'll continue to look at the rotation again, not as a depth chart type of thing, but just to see kind of the combinations. They're even just testing out. Michael Hoyt's in there, but then he's going to be suspended the first 6 games. Javon Solomon is a guy that I think a lot of people really liked in the splashy little segments that we saw him as a rookie. So there's a lot of guys that maybe you're like, oh, I forgot about that guy, that we're going to see get those opportunity. And again, time on task and getting the reps is probably going to help the young as well as the new guys get a grasp here.
Yep.
Saw Matt Milano out there. We saw Terrell Bernard with a new number. We saw Cole Bishop out there working with Taylor Rapp. I think that's the combination a lot of people probably assume is the front runner. But I'm still not sold that you could just give it to the second-year player. Damar Hamlin, for whatever maybe some of you think about him, he's been solid enough and in this system that I think it's going to be an interesting kind of battle between those two.
And it was something Sean McDermott didn't talk about it specifically, but he was asked about sort of the cornerbacks and how the Bills have been in a situation before where they took a cornerback in the first round, and it was the 6th round pick who ended up getting the starting job. I think maybe something similar at play at safety in the sense of, hey, just because Cole Bishop is a 2nd round pick, he's not going to be gifted the position. He has to go out and beat out Damar Hamlin for that spot, or else they're going to run Hamlin out there as the starting safety for a 2nd straight year. And I think you will also see that at the cornerback position. Max Hairston has to go out and outplay Dorian Strong if he wants to get more reps over him. He has to go out and outplay Trey White and Dane Jackson if he's going to be the CB2. This is a team that everything's earned, not given, and I think you're going to see that at multiple positions, especially in the secondary.
And we'll wrap up on this. A surprise visitor to the Bills who, I mean, he's a minority owner, so he certainly can show up whenever the heck he wants. Vince Carter. I was walking in ahead of Sean McDermott talking. I see this guy. I'm like, that guy's got to be 6'6". I'm like, who the heck is this like skinnier 6'6" dude?
Yeah.
It didn't even cross my mind that it could be Vince Carter. I guess I should start getting used to maybe spotting the super tall guy that's not a football player. But it was super cool to hear Sean McDermott talk about the impact that Carter can bring. And then speaking with Carter afterwards, kind of his vision for what his role is going to be as a minority owner.
Sorry, it's just jarring to see an athlete like that with that sort of size. You don't see too many people stand next to Josh Allen or Deion Dawkins. You're like, wow, this guy is bigger. But this is like an NBA Hall of Fame player. Like, you talk about name brand and cachet. Vince Carter is like one of those guys. You think about all the highlights, Vinsanity and everything. He's like just one of those guys. So it's cool just to see him in this setting, something that's not his normal setting, right? Although I guess this is now more of his normal setting than the basketball court. He's wearing the Bills hat. He just seems like a guy who is throwing himself into this like 100% and saying, if I'm going to be a minority owner of this team with so much passion, the fans really care about it, I'm going to do everything to really become a part of the Bills. So he's here taking in practice, wearing the Bills hat, talking with the players, talking with Josh Allen, talking with Deion Dawkins. And yeah, Sean McDermott talked about it before practice about how, yes, Vince Carter can come in and learn from some of the people with the Bills about what it's like to be here, be a part of this team. But he and the players are also looking to learn from him. You're always looking to learn from greatness, wherever greatness comes from. And someone who accomplished as much as Vince Carter, I'm sure has a lot to teach these guys about what it's like to consistently achieve and be great, and as a competitor, some of the different things and some of the similarities that go between being a great basketball player and being a great football player. Saw
him chatting about 5 minutes during practice with Keon Coleman, obviously the basketball lineage there between Coleman playing in college as well. It's crazy also for me to think Vince Carter was like the epicenter when I was growing up and watching basketball. A lot of these guys on this team, and probably you including, you weren't there, you weren't really at the peak of your sports watching life when Vince Carter is having what is, in my opinion, the greatest slam dunk contest of all time.
Yeah, no, that was more so on the back end. So like once I started playing like NBA 2K6, right? Like Vince Carter was already on the downswing of his career, but he
the
was
Memphis Grizzlies version.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. It was sort of kind of like Allen Iverson too. Like I never really got like peak Allen Iverson, but though like a player like Carter and a player like Iverson were such great players that even once you start to enter late elementary school and middle school, you are aware of those guys and you know how much they meant to the sport of basketball in a league like the NBA.
Yeah, Carter saying he's really just going to help even the veterans like Josh and Deion and others continue to learn how to be a veteran on a basketball team or on a football team from his basketball perspective. I'm sure we'll see Carter around much more, and it's going to have to become more of the norm for us as well.
Maybe we'll see Tracy McGrady also here at some
point. And Josie Altidore as well. Bills with OTAs the rest of this week, one more week next week before mandatory minicamp, which again is when I expect James Cook to be there. With Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.